Hello, name's Anan. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Today I got a build for y'all that I assembled ages ago, decades if you will. I briefly replayed it before hitting record, and I still stand behind everything this build was made for in the first place, which in my opinion is, first and foremost, fun. Having fun, using Arcana that I believe are quite fun, using a theme that appeals to a lot of people, as I would imagine, and, of course, versatility. This build can be taken in many different places. You can stray away completely from the build and just use these abilities because they're fun and combine them in wildly different ways. You can go ahead and build a lot of different items. There's just a lot of synergies there to be explored and a lot of different synergies with other abilities, additional abilities, not just additional relics as well, additional play styles. There are just many ways to play this in wildly different ways. So, without further ado, let's move on. Today's build is called Death by 1,000 Cuts. Very unappealing name that is a reference to an, I believe, Asian torture method, where the victim is dealt very minute cuts on a surface level to their skin, preferably to very weak spots, so pain centers of your body, but spots that are not crucial for your body to remain alive. So they're not cutting veins, for example, because it would just bleed out immediately and die, and that would completely fail the implications of torture, the joy, if you will, of torture. So the target is dealt up to thousands of tiny cuts, tiny shallow cuts to their body, and eventually is meant to die of exhaustion, not of bleeding out, but obviously that happens sometimes. So that gruesome name out of the way, this is a sword-themed build. Fully water, fully sword, fully critical hit, critical damage-themed build. Similar to the torture method, it's quite reasonably resembling it, in my opinion. And yeah, that's all that's really got to be said about that. So, moving on from this gruesome topic to another. For our rope, of course, you didn't see that, we're gonna be going for the R rope, which is just a perfect fit for the build theme, but regardless, it is perfect with these abilities, and especially with our starting relic, we really want the R rope. No other rope here, even though I usually proclaim that the R rope and the Fury rope are, for many builds that I build, exchangeable. They are interchangeable. You can pick whichever you like better, whichever approach, whichever playstyle you prefer, whether it be raw damage, raw crit chance with the R rope, or whether it be casting a lot of signatures. While this would work for this build as well, I strongly recommend not trying a Fury build. I mean, it's okay, okay? I'm the signature guy. I love playing with a lot of flashy abilities, just recasting my signature over and over again. So yeah, Fury Robe is okay, and I played a bunch of different versions of this build with a Fury Robe in mind. However, I really gotta say at the end of the day, our robe is what ties this together. It's just the glue holding everything together, making it so much more fun, realistically. And you might be able to determine that for yourself when trying this out. Who knows? What does the R-Up do, you might ask? It increases your critical strike chance by 10% and the critical hit damage by 25, which is a lot, because we're going to be critting a shitload. And when you upgrade this, it increases both stats further, which is ridiculous. This is as close as you could get to a consistent damage increase without increasing your base damage, straight up. And it scales, because these are critical strike chances, with your base damage. So when you increase your base damage using items like Double Trouble, for example, or say Luxury Handbag, anything similar to that, that straight up increases your base damage or the damage of certain abilities, like movement-based abilities, melee abilities, and so on and so forth, this scales with that. And it scales so well. It's just a treat to see those high rent numbers popping up all the time. And we are using a fairly mid to high damage build here with what I would probably preface fairly mid to high damage abilities. So naturally, that's a very great fit for a crit chance slash crit damage build. Also, of course, we are picking it mainly because of our starting relic, which is completely bonkers, batshit insane. This is the offensive dark katana, of course. What else would it be? It's a sword. It's a katana. This relic triples. I was gonna say cripples, which would definitely be accurate too. It triples the critical hit chance for all melee Arcana, crippling our enemies. Just straight up hacking through their legs so they can't escape us. And then they just will be cut to pieces, cut to death by thousands of tiny little slices. Triples the crit chance for all melee Arcana. Guess what? Swords are always melee Arcana. We are only using swords, so this is a sword that will synergize with other swords. Fantastic. Absolutely love to see this. This is insane with the Robe. Basically, a guaranteed crit hit on every single hit, as you will see in a second. This is nutty. And the scalability is through the roof. It goes with so many things. Of course, this stacks up with other crit increases on crit damage increases, like the Assassin's Dagger, for example, which straight up increases your critical hit damage, or the Dice of the Nemesis, or other similar items that are just crit related. This is insane for that reason, but also it just stacks up with everything you do, with your base damage, for example. This is ridiculously strong. But before we show it off, we gotta get into the Arcana here, right? So let's start with our basic, which is of course the Frost Blade, the only blade-related, sword-related basic in the game, unfortunately, but it is quite a fun one, so it's not that unfortunate. Really, it's quite fun to use. It's, of course, a melee ability. Slashes with icy blades that cut through enemies can be charged for boosted effect. This is a charged ability, which has very, very different usage applications, I should probably say here, because it can be used, it can be enhanced in many different ways. Now, how does this ability work? You slash first, I believe, with the left, then with the right, then with both swords all at once, your enemies. So it's a typical 3 ticks, sort of 3 usages based charged Arcana, where the third use does something special. It does a lot more damage, it has a lot more range, a lot more coverage, and it freezes enemies, which is fantastic. And once upgraded, that freeze also lasts much longer and increases the size of this ability, essentially becoming a large cleave ability. It looks like so. It has a great piercing, makes you look very cool, like some kind of shinobi, ninja, samurai with our swords. Very, very nice. Very attractive, very appealing to look at. In my opinion, deals very high damage. Just look at the crits. You can also tap it decently well. Has a decent coverage, nothing wild, but a great width nonetheless. Not the greatest range by any means, but still it can be decently tapped, which is quite unique for a charge-based ability. That is absolutely not the regular case here by any means. It pierces all enemies, has a decent knockback, very, very good damage. I should mention over and over and over again, this ability does nutty damage. You really, really want to make this faster, using relics, using other abilities potentially, and then this just goes off by itself. As long as you can make it faster, or enhance it somehow, maybe straight up enhance the ability so enemies are frozen longer, allowing for this to be set up more frequently and more safely, or just straight up reducing the time it takes to cast this. However you're doing that, for example by using gloves, different gloves like evening gloves or chrono gloves, because this is a charge-based ability, can be made faster, or using other items that make you faster, maybe like a silver spinning top, for example, or an ability like Fueled Berserk that allows for you to just go nuts on your enemies. However you do it, this ability ends up being nutty. It is quite strong early on, as enemies are not super fast to react, so you can rather easily catch them off guard and hit them without them connecting with you. However, on later floors, obviously when everything gets really fast, these charge-based abilities have to be enhanced somehow, or you have to have some kind of support ability to keep enemies in check so they can't get all the way to you and hit you, because that would abort the charge. Being hit aborts the entire ability, which would be absolutely terrible to happen. So you always want to avoid that somehow. There are certain items, there are certain abilities that allow for you to do that, that help you out, that support you in just using your charged ability more so. In my opinion, these are quite strong and quite fun to use, however, always worse. They always, without doubt, without a failure, are worse than the non-charged equivalent. Why so? Because they are very inversatile. For the most part. Yes, you can use them in different modes, but you can't really use one mode, the charged mode, most of the time. Against a Sura, for example, think of Phase 3 Sura, for example. This is unusable. Absolutely too slow. No matter how you enhance it, it will still not be very good by any means. Even potentially once you acquired a Fueled Berserk. So keep that in mind. This is not going to be the main focus of the build. It might be the main focus for maybe the first 2 floors, because there it's actually quite good. Or I should probably say the first 2 dungeons. That's what I mean with floors. So the first element and the second element. But beyond that, I don't think this is a very strong ability. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't need to be. This is not the main focus of the build. It's just a very, very strong, versatile, cool to look at, feel-good ability. For our dash, we're going to be using Frost Feint, which is just a very tiny helping support ability to get off our basic more frequently, and just to help with our general cleavage of killing enemies, of killing large groups of enemies, of crowd control, and just it does a lot of things for us. Now, this leaves behind a decoy at the initial dash position, like so. This decoy counts as an entity of your character, so it will be targeted by enemies as long as it's closer to them than you are. So you generally want to cast this and then be far away from your enemy so they target your decoy. If you cast this over here, the enemy to the left is going to target you, and the enemies to the right are going to target the decoy. Whatever is closer will be targeted by enemies, generally speaking. This has a great advantage of making you able to lure enemies, large groups of enemies at that as well, into a certain position, and then following that up with maybe a charge-based Arcana that takes a while to get going, or just generally a slow, sluggish to use Arcana, or a very powerful Arcana that's very strong against a group of enemies, but maybe just has a very small AoE, a very small of area that it deals damage in. This has very different usages depending on the build you're running. You can also lure enemies towards a cliff and then push them off, for example, lure them, group them up, and then do many things to them. Whatever it is, this synergizes very well with a lot of different items, a lot of different abilities and builds, and is always my go-to pick when picking something that is just there for versatility and for utility reasons. It deals damage too. Now, this decoy has a set duration, which is displayed nowhere, unfortunately. It's similar to the Magma Rush, the sort of explosive fireball trap dash. If you recall what that does, it leaves behind a residual field that will also explode after a short period of time, similar to this decoy. So it has a set duration, and when hit, when struck by a foe, or when the duration simply expires, it will burst in a very small AoE around it, dealing a considerably large amount of damage, considering what this ability already is capable of doing, and then also freezing enemies, allowing for you to set up even more charged basics. For example, that's just one way you can use it, but that's a very prevalent way that you will see me do a lot, most likely. Also, this ability has 2 charges right at the get-go, and can be upgraded to deploy 2 decoys every time you use it. One at the initial dash location and one at the dash destination where you are going to be dashing, allowing for a lot of extra decoying and disruption and distraction of all of your foes. Also, repositioning is very important with this run, because you can't just, once you upgrade it, you can't just dash all over the place. It has the slight disadvantage of then attracting enemies to run to all sorts of decoys, not just one of them, because all enemies are going to be at different positions to these decoys relative to these decoys, and therefore being attracted to certain different decoys. So you don't exactly group enemies up at that point, you split them up in very weird and sort of unpredictable ways that you should rather avoid, in my opinion. So once you upgrade it, you should be a lot more careful in your approach of how to use this. However, upgrading this is not going to be a I forgot the damn word. It's not gonna be a focus of this build in any way, shape, or form. This is not a super important upgrade by any means, unlike our basic, which is very, very crucial early on. We really want to see that as early on as possible. It's very, very strong. The Frost Feint is just a meh upgrade that helps slightly more sometimes, not all the time. So we really can't be bothered upgrading this. However, if you have the money, if you find the money necessary and you don't have anything else to spend that money on, say you are full on relics already, or there's just simply nothing to buy, now or in the nigh future, you might as well go ahead and purchase the upgrade. For our standard, we got another support Arcana, a pure buff Arcana, Calming Flaw. It's a buff Arcana, as the ++ in the top right corner suggests, meaning that it won't deal any damage, or at least won't deal a lot of damage directly, similar, sort of, to our Frost Feint. Enter a calming state where every last hit of your basic Arcana lowers all cooldowns, and when enhanced, immediately lower all cooldowns on use. This ability is very weird, and I rarely ever use it. However, I saw a very good fit to this kind of build, because here's my reasoning. Early game, I can still use my basic Arcana fairly well. It's a charged Arcana, it deals good damage, I can combine it with my dash and with my now revealed standard as well, in order to just greatly reduce the cooldowns of my signature and my dash, and just be able to do more stuff all the time. However, in the late game, when you have to kill bosses who rapidly move around a lot, it's quite hard to cover large distances to the boss and then also set up this charged ability. I would only be able to realistically attack them with this and nothing else, which wouldn't deal a lot of damage naturally. So what I wanted to do is find a way around that. And usually how you should build around that is either by having a very strong signature or by having a decent to strong signature and a decent to strong standard that deal damage. So those two abilities can take over in the late game. That's usually how you play around in this game, at least from my experience. That's how I do it. And that's what we're going to be doing. Except today, unlike what I usually would do, I'm not going to be going for the latter, so a decent and strong signature and a decent and strong standard. Instead, I'm just going to go for a strong signature and a supportive standard that enables me to use that signature a whole hell of a lot more, but also requires for me to use my basic in order to get that benefit, to get that cooldown reduction. This provides a lot of cooldown reduction, but you have to connect all 3 hits of your basic in order to receive any of it, which means it has a skill curve. It is not that easy to do, and it's not that consistent to do either. Now, this also reduces the cooldown on our dash, which has a fairly low cooldown to begin with, so we don't care much about that. This is mainly used as a main source of cooldown reduction for our signature, because our signature is supposed to win this run at the end of the day. And with that out of the way, I don't even feel like showing this off, to be honest, because it is just that simple. If you've seen Field Berserk, you know how this works. You cast it, it has an expiration date, it has a rather short time that this is active, which can be enhanced with items that increase your buff duration, for example the Demi's Teapot. And while this is active, not only does it have a neat visual effect around your character, but also grants a large amount of cooldown reduction. So if I used up my dashes here, and then I cast it, look at that. Boom. Great amount of cooldown reduction, love to see it. This is usually enough for 2 full charges, 2 full usages of your basic Arcana. Against bosses, not so much, right? It might be enough for 1 into another signature. But there are many different combinations here, many different combinations that we will try to unravel as we play. I'm not super super experienced playing this build. I'm just experienced theory crafting it. So technically, the idea here is that I'm going to be able to use a signature into this, and then potentially into another signature. Or two of these into another signature. And then obviously this stacks up with a lot of extra items, like extra cooldown reduction, maybe even extra relics that, sorry, not relics, extra abilities that give you cooldown reduction, or that allow for you to tank more, or wait out cooldowns more. So that's just a billion different ways to use this and grant a lot of cooldown reduction to our signature and make it just have that many more uses. Essentially, we are putting charges on our signature ability, which is fantastic. I love to see it. It's not that easy to use by any means into bosses, as you will see, but I would imagine this is quite fun and quite unique and different from what I usually do. Different enough to me to consider playing this build and showing it off. So, with that out of the way, let's move on to the meat and potatoes of this build, our signature. The, of course, Crystalline Balestra. Executes a double lunge with a sweeping slash of frost. Incorporates a third lunge into the attack. Don't care much about this being my signature. It's the only viable signature after all. It's a movement ability and a melee ability, so easily enhanceable with both movement and melee damage, such as the Dark Katana, for example. This hits many times, it hits really hard, it covers a large area, similar to our basic, but even larger in my opinion, and it grants you great maneuverability while doing so. It looks like so. Very nice, very interesting. So you dash forth and back and forth again. Lots of 180s there. It's not the easiest to use by any means, and it doesn't always hit all targets. That's logical, right? Because I dash into two wildly different directions, opposite directions, in fact, which doesn't allow this to be super versatile. You have to be very close to your target if you want to hit them with all attacks. But otherwise, it has great coverage. It has 360-degree coverage, in fact, which is fantastic. I love to play with these sort of abilities. It deals very, very high damage, especially when paired with the Dark Katana. This is just the base usage. Look at that, 100 damage plus due to all the crits and all the... Man, all the hits. That's just so good. It is literally stronger than something like Explosive Fireball, because a Fireball might deal 50 damage hit, but it only hits once, and this can crit on 3 different occasions and deals great damage on each of them. Even the base damage is fantastic, even with our Robe and the Dark Katana. It's just awesome. It has great crowd control capabilities, which are quite obvious from the looks of it, and it's just a great cleave ability. All around fantastic. It's piercing, of course, because how else would we make this work? And, well, easily enhanceable. Did I mention that? It's very easily enhanceable, in fact. You can also increase its damage by picking up plenty of cursed abilities. You don't need a fully enhanced build, a lot of relics, to make this super strong. You might need 1 or 2, and that's good enough, most often. At least in theory. But in practice, I have enough experience, in my opinion, to be able to judge this adequately. So we are going to try and find one of its many, many synergies, and then just make this super strong. Do combos like this, cast the buff before so I don't lose any time, and then just combo off into a lot of Balestras. Now we can also use the charged version, which is just a lot more vicious. Just a lot more extra hits, and just so much damage. It's ridiculous. Also great coverage on the signature, as it, I believe, also has slightly increased range. Yeah, not slightly, it's largely increased range. Holy shit. What an ability. Just such fun, so satisfying to use, great to look at, and that's the build. Many, many hidden combos in here, many different potential extra combinations and caveats to it. I don't think this is the easiest of builds to play by any means. Also, it's true melee. It's all melee, so this is naturally very bad into certain things, such as being poisoned. It's very, very bad. It's a long-lasting debuff, which will tick down on your health, and in turn, cancel an ability every time you are damaged. It's terrible. You don't want to be poisoned. Avoid that at any cost. Also, certain enemies are kind of a nuisance to you, like thieves, because you're in melee range. So they can get you stunned on easily. Being frozen generally is very, very bad. Being slowed generally is very, very annoying. Being poisoned, as aforementioned, is terrible. You want to avoid that at any cost. And then also using this into bosses is not the easiest task either. Generally, melee is very difficult to play from ranged, from my experience anyway. Take, as an example, the mini-boss Summoner. Sometimes, in the late game especially, you can't exactly tackle a Summoner at all unless you take your sweet, sweet time with just killing all the ads. He will summon those melee saw blade gemstone thingies, which are just a nuisance to deal with. Unless you are incredibly good at dodging them, I strongly recommend you be very aggressive into bosses like that, but be wary of your health. And with those things out of the way, right, so let's get into the spiciness. With our specifics, the intended build playstyle, of course, is very aggressive. We are torturing our foes. We have great cleave abilities, great damage. We can be as aggressive as we want to. We have freezes, too. The coolest status effect, undeniably so. Fight me to the death. I don't care. Freeze is great. It has many caveats to it. For example, there are certain enemies that, if you freeze them, like the big buff black guys, and you hit them again, you unfreeze them, they immediately strike. You have like a nanosecond to react, which is, of course, nigh impossible. So freeze has its caveats too, its downsides, rather, but it is just the coolest. By far, the coolest status effect from a player perspective in the game. Freezing enemies allows for you to do a lot more stuff, and do it a lot more efficiently so, and do it a lot more freely so. Versatility is key, and freezing is the most versatile status effect, in my opinion anyway. It doesn't deal great damage by any means, but it's great. It's just very fun to use, and I love it. So it can be hyper aggressive, and it's not exactly required, but it's kind of required. It's kind of the build idea to be hyper aggressive and just have a great time, but also sometimes you need to be a little defensive. Step back just a little bit in order to literally step back to charge this basic, because it has quite a great coverage, but you don't want to charge it when you are right up the faces, right up the assholes of your enemies, because then they're going to hit you. Just stay far away. It has great coverage, and it freezes them, giving you even more time. Everything you do here buys you more time to tick down on those crucial cooldowns like Crystalline Balestra. So sometimes you need to physically step back just a little bit and separate yourself from all this action going on and just come to terms with patience and value and shit. I don't know. You get what I'm saying? That's the playstyle. In terms of potential problems, you are running all water, so naturally you have a disadvantage in the water dungeon. You have a disadvantage in the lightning dungeon, even though neither of them are particularly difficult to beat to you. The water dungeon is a little bit annoying because you can't freeze enemies for long, and they do freeze you, your melee build, so that is a dungeon that is to be avoided. But other than that, there are not really any grave issues you should be aware of here, in my opinion anyway. You have decent coverage, even for a melee build, decent maneuverability, allowing for you to cover distances decently fast enough, let's put it that way. And I think we shouldn't be encountering too many grave issues here by any means. So let's move on to the final section, the recommended items and Arcana, and boy oh boy are there many things that work with this. First of all, any and everything basic related. All the candies, all the gloves, just they work. They're cool. You should probably build some of them. I would recommend not picking up necessarily something like a combo glove, for example. Yes, you might be able to use this blast here at the end of this attack chain another time, which would definitely proc your calming flow again, which is fantastic. That's awesome. But at the end of the day, are you really gonna be doing that a lot? You might be early game, and it sounds incredibly fun to me, just saying it aloud, but ultimately, you should work towards your late game. You should develop your game plan, not just stick with what is best in the moment, in my opinion anyway, which is gonna be signature charge, because this Balestra is insane, and that's essentially free cooldown reduction. Cooldown reduction, speaking of which, right? Because that's just free cooldown reduction and free signature charge, essentially, because the more you can use your ability, the more signature you generate, the more signature charge you get, the more signatures you get off, the more effective cooldown reduction you get, and so on and so forth. It's just one whole cycle, right? Signature charge and cooldown reduction, mwah, fantastic. Also, to go with it, just a little bit of extra base damage will get the job done. Extra crit chance, fantastic, even though not required. You love seeing something like Dice of the Nemesis and Assassin's Blade because they just make you deal so much more damage on your average hit because they make crits deal a lot more damage. And you crit pretty much all the time. Every time you hit an enemy, you're going to crit at least once. So there's always a chance to proc that Dice of the Nemesis to deal a massive boatload of damage, or to just use the consistent damage increase of Assassin's Blade, Assassin's Dagger, whichever the name might be. So you have a lot of options right at the get-go, a lot of different item pools that work very well. I don't recommend building defense. You can definitely do that. Something like a calcifying bone mail, then you can play slightly more aggressively. But these are not exactly abilities that you can use hyper aggressively while also taking damage. You can't exactly damage boost well through abilities. You don't destroy projectiles well by any means, at least to my knowledge. So don't really play that aggressively. It's not the type of build that likes to get a Sano's headband and a calcifying bone mail and then stay inside of Sura. You don't really need to do that. You can kill him step by step. Maybe take like 3 phases where you deal high burst damage to him and charge a signature and then finish him off, right? That should be enough most of the time. You don't have to be that aggressive. That's not required. But generally, being very aggressive into enemies, into mini-bosses, is definitely neat. I like being aggressive into mini-bosses, especially like the Summoner, like the Ranger, like the Thief. Those kind of suck. Those 3 are very annoying to you. Also, Lancer, kind of annoying at times. You have a great cleave, a great range, just use it well. Kill all the enemies at once. Don't just hit one of them. Don't whiff the hit. Don't engage when you can only hit one. Just hit all of them. Kill everything. Get everything far away from you. And then slash it to doom, to death, and beyond. And I believe that, having been said, we don't exactly need to mention any extra Arcana here or any extra abilities. There are just so many things that might work well. You can probably find something by yourself. I'd say, let's get right into the run. I am quite excited to play here. Let's get our money and then maybe try and hit Freya here. Just for good measure. Sky Palace. Chilling Dungeons. Yes. Okay. Freya, Zeal, and Shu. That's not the greatest of combinations by any means. All of those hit very hard. All of those are quite difficult. Even though an early on Freya is not exactly super hard. Let's do that. It's a neat little trick. Okay. I hate summoners. Okay, keep my distance there because there's no point overcommitting. I can just use my signature to finish him off safely. Or rather safely. We find a calcifying bone mail right away. That's great. Love to see it. Infinity Marble isn't that bad either, as this is a pure melee build, meaning that... Think about the Sura fight. So sometimes I get a fully charged signature at the end of a downtime phase of him. So he's gonna resume attacking me, and then I can't exactly get that signature off. Infinity Marble helps with that signature. It allows for me to use it in the next downtime phase of his. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be able to use it, or I'd have to overcommit and then take a bunch of damage. So Infinity Marble isn't that bad by any means in a melee build. It's not a must, it's not a super strong pickup, it's just decent. When you already have a signature build, this is quite nice. However, if I find a Surefire Rocket, I essentially will never need an Infinity Marble. I can just control it that way, by not getting my signature fully charged and just leaving it at like 90% and then charging it when I actually need it. Boots of Frenzy are neat, but not super strong with this dash. I like the calcifying bone mail a lot. I'm not gonna be picking that up right away, though. I think I will opt to get my abilities upgraded here. So I can potentially... Oh, Robe upgrade. Sweet, that's a freebie. I want to get my abilities upgraded so I can potentially use a base damage increase as strong as Luxury Handbag. Gonna attack around the corner there. Gonna try and hit the summons. This is quite a tough room. Oof, I'm glad that worked out. Okay, let's look at the Robe upgrade. 15% crit chance, effectively 45, right? It's 15 plus our base crit chance times 3 with the Dark Katana, which is ridiculous. And 37.5% increased crit hit damage. Oh, mama, that's a lot of damage. Just wait, I don't want to be shot by a blind shot there. Oh damn, he shot fast. Cool. Calming Flow isn't exactly necessary to the build. However, I believe it's just a decent fit, and I've never used it before, so I want to try and make it work with this. This is a very annoying room. Cool. Does definitely help with these elites early on, considering that I'm in the water dungeon and everything I do is just very weak. Get that Balestra of cooldown for the next wave of enemies. That's inevitably going to come. Oh, come on! Why are you doing me like this, decoy? Okay. Let's finish these floors quick, so we grab all the money that is left in here. Okay. We still have a room up there that we missed. I'd say, oh, hey, Mimic. Oh, hey, room. What's going on here? Couldn't really commit there because of the thief. He would have just ignored us and probably damage boosted through. Thank you, Mimic friend. I would suggest let's head up here first. I'm not sure that's actually a merchant's room, so... And it is. Frost Feint and Calming Flow. Decent upgrades. Nothing wild. I think I'm gonna get the Frost Feint first, because it should immediately be helpful. I might actually get both. I don't think I need Marble and Bone Mail. I'm not even sure which one I'll be going for, to be honest. Probably the Bone Mail. That's just a much safer pick. Much, much more consistent over the Marble, which is just occasionally gonna be handy. Usually, from my experience, only into bosses as well. Like, it's not super helpful to await your signature while doing rooms. Even if you had to fail from a room. Say there's too many enemies or the room is too hard. I think even then it's not super strong. Holy crap. Okay, let's grab the Bone Mail, and then piss off. Decent damage. Okay damage distribution as well. I do like it. Now the glade, oh, I can't talk. Already starting to whiff at the words again. The game plan here for this run is probably going to be signature charge. So I believe that could be very fun. Hello? I hate this room. At least it's not a mimic, thank God. It's such a cool effect. It looks so epic. It doesn't do anything at all, it just lowers your cooldown slightly, but it looks so cool. Hey, I see a jacket down there for a lot of extra armor. Always want to pop the comic flow. Don't hesitate using that. It's not a very strong Arcana, but it helps you out greatly when you pop it early on. I should definitely get that jacket first, so I take less damage. Oh wow, he walked really fast. Let's head down here. Start making our way towards the jacket. Oh, hi. Oh, wow, that was a quick kill. Didn't expect that. He did not last long at all. Decoy abuse, let's go. Okay, I really only need a little bit of money so I can afford items. I do intend to rush here as I don't have a lot of time, and I feel like this build is definitely capable of rushing. It has a great amount of damage, so this should absolutely be able to rush a run. Okay, halving our crit chance, or essentially doubling our activation delays. I don't like that. I don't like either. I like the ominous low note. It's okay. Also, Turtle Shield would be a great amount of defense, but do we really need that? We don't exactly want to lower our damage. It's always detrimental because base damage is important when running a crit chance build. It should be fairly obvious. Can't eradicate our base damage without eradicating our build ID. Let's head to the green shop quickly. And then maybe find an Iris upgrade and move on. Assassin's Dagger. Blade. Of course, it's the blade, not the dagger. Okay. That works. Dagger would make a lot more sense. Only one more room. Might as well do this. Lovely. Bubblegum. Cool. Move it on. I'll have to cancel that. Okay, anything else? Not really. Moving on. Didn't take any of the cursed items. I don't exactly need the low note right now. I really don't want the Magician's Wand either, because it can absolutely ruin this run, and I am not experienced enough on this build. To do that, I would in fact have to probably see whether the item is decent on this build at all before actually trying it out. As this is a live run, I'm not gonna be doing that. That right there was exactly one of those infinity marble situations that I referenced earlier. Definitely should have popped my comic flow there, would have been slightly faster. Stonebreaker, don't care. Not going to be using that a lot, but thank you nonetheless. It's not useful at all here. We got fire and wind ahead, so this is actually a very weak Arcana, but at least it's enhanced, so it might come in handy when potentially finding a luxury hand back. Decent knockback. We can definitely work with that. Let's use it here for a little bit of a damage preface. I don't want to enter that room, as that's a trap room over there, and I don't want to trap myself with a big guy. Though I believe he would be pushed out. Not too sure about that. I only need to make a little bit of money so I can afford my items. That's all I want to do. Neat trick we can also do with the decoy, when we know that it's going to expire, is that we can just shove enemies into it with our basic, which has now a much, much greater range. It's now a fully fledged out sword, not just a dagger, like it was earlier. Rather do that, because I wasn't too sure I would freeze everyone there. Cool. Only need to find green and red, and then we can move on. And of course a little bit extra money, because our money situation currently is kind of bad. Don't want to commit to the charged version here too much, as that would leave us open to be hit by an attack and then potentially pushed into a pit as well, which happens quite a lot. Okay, we found red. Did we see the portal though? No, we did. So now we can TP there. And we found green, and it is very, very good. We can trade our health to buy stuff. That is absolutely very, very strong. Love the wooden easel. Painting parts generally are very good. Snowflake is very nice in this build, especially since we already run a lot of freeze damage. 2 basic attack enhancements. Glove of Patience, increase basic Arcana damage and reduce the charge time, but increase all other cooldowns. This is kind of detrimental to using your signature as your main late game damage tool. Same for the double edge testers, increase basic Arcana damage, all other damage drastically decreased. They should actually say not just decreased, it's a drastic damage decrease. So cooldown increase we can definitely deal with better. Tattooed Score is also a viable pickup, but whenever we take damage we lose signature charge. So, it's kind of annoying on a melee build. Horn Halo is a good pickup, very, very good pickup. It were, anyway, if we already had a very strong build damage-wise. None of these are base damage increases. And I don't exactly have a super basic Arcana themed build here. They might still be strong enough. Glove of Patience at least doesn't reduce my damage. Also makes me cast a lot faster. Oh my god, it looks so good. It feels so good too. Now I still need a little extra money because I just spent all that. Lock the projectile. Okay, cool explosion there. Just slightly more money. Just rampage through this area. Rampage through this area. We just need a little money, my friend. Please. Would you care to donate a little money to my relic fund? Nothing here. Cool. Moving on then. Oh yeah, let's go. This feels very nice already. Love it. The damage distribution is still very, very good. It's gotta remain about 50-50 or maybe 40-60. Favoring our signature for the most part here, because we are lowering the signature damage, which would otherwise probably deal more damage than our basic. But no, they are rather equal. Not super equal. Well, actually, what I said isn't entirely accurate. I'm not exactly lowering the damage of my signature, I'm just technically lowering it by limiting the number of times that I can use it by increasing its cooldown. This, so far, is an incredibly feel-good build. But I'm in the Fire Dungeon, so I'm definitely experiencing a bias right here. Dude, the glove is just so fucking fun. So goddamn fun with this basic. Just using that to stun lock them from afar, as that's the only way I could do that currently. Oh my god, I need my abilities back up. I want to group them up and then just crystalline them. Like so. Try me, bitch. Of course, I could have used my basic a lot more there, but I'm not used to that, okay? I'm not a basic person. I'm not a basic bitch. Oh, so many chests in this shot. Lovely. Okay. Talking about chests, huh? Not a mimic? Sweet. Great amount of money. Right away. I can kill you through the wall, I don't mind. I got an anime as fuck sword, so I don't really care about anything, dude. I could probably kill the devil himself with this thing. No, you're not doing that. No, you're not doing that either. No, you're not doing that. Just fuck off, dude. Is there a chest in here? No. Suppose it would have been visible on the map, considering how fucking large these things are. The map probably would have detected it. Presumably, I should probably say. I find it very likely. Okay. Cremora. I don't think I have any garbage to sell to you, my friend. Gonna have to wait on that. I still need green. I got all my upgrades, so I don't care much about Iris at all, in fact. But okay, I will face tank that. Why even fight them? It's just for fun. Okay, what do we have in here? We have the chocolate and the chainmail. Love the chainmail. Definitely allows for me to take a lot more damage. I don't have any damage issues here. I think I'll be very fine killing the Pinata. Definitely don't need that token. Just keep the big guy stun locked. By stun locked, of course, I mean frozen. Oh my god, it feels so smooth. Moving on. On to the next one. Hello, Zeal. You're gonna be destroyed today. I could be a lot more aggressive here. But what's the fuzz? Right, we're gonna be fine. Rushing Typhoon, another wind element? What's with you guys, man? Is this supposed to be a hint? Like, shouldn't I fight Shu? Should I be afraid or some shit? I'm not gonna do that. I don't care. I'm the greatest motherfucker in the land. Also love combining an already full melee build with a melee dash ability. That's always a favorite of mine. It's definitely not my go-to dash ability here, but it's still very, very fun. It's definitely gonna come in handy. Take it slightly more slowly into lances as they're just so fast. Just so damn fast, man. Oh yeah, I love that. So helpful. This is so helpful to melee builds. Or any build, as a matter of fact. Any build that is good with good at CC is just insanely strong with these items. You kill one enemy and they start a chain reaction and they kill the entire room. It's fantastic. I love this so far. Such a great experience. Mainly thanks to the snowflake and the glove. Trust me, this would be a lot harder without the glove. Oh, snowflake is just so helpful. It's easily one of my favorite items in the entirety of the game. Ah, why did you do that? Not doing that, boy. I don't care, I'll just damage boost through. You can only cancel me for so long, right? I got a bone mail as well. Might as well go fuck yourself, so. Yeah, fuck you, dude. Luxury handbag. Yes. Easy pickup. We've been working towards that for a while now. Easiest pickup I have ever picked up. We are just slicing through our foes like the butter. Oh my, this feels so good. I could play this a lot more often, for sure. Bye. Magician's Top Hat. Love the stone. That's very handy. We are always in melee range, so I'll be taking that. It also stacks, so we can get a lot more items. Very handy, generally, but also with the heavy travel jackal. Hello, I can't talk again. Heavy travel jackal. Of course, it's the heavy travel jackal. Have you ever heard of the heavy travel jackal? What, you don't have a Trevi jackal? What the fuck? Okay, Mirror Shield is like an okay pickup. We might exchange Water Vigor for that. Honestly, that's like a really nice pickup at this point. Okay. And go in! Just beware of all those melee menaces. Mirror Shield, very, very helpful there. Definitely would have taken some damage there. Oh, hell yeah! Let's fucking go, dude. Okay, we done here? I think so. Moving on. Just rushing through, but I'm having a blast right now. This is an easy 10 out of 10 run. Absolute blast to play this. Makes me kind of sad. I've been hesitating around with this build. This has been stocking up, right? I've had this build for... oh, boy, dude. I really can't remember here. I think it must have been like 5 months at this point. And I haven't played it once yet. Oh my god, you guys are a nuisance. Thanks. Absolute nuisance to deal with. Evasion is always very annoying with melee builds too. I didn't mention that at the beginning, It's not true for all builds, it's just builds that don't hit a lot, and this build doesn't hit a lot. It hits a few times and it hits very hard. Boom, explode. Boom, explode. Decoys, fuck you guys. I was kind of afraid that this build would be a little boring to play. That's what I meant to say, I kind of fumbled with the words again. Why so? Because I simply don't really like charged abilities, and I think many of them can make a run very bland and boring and just drawn out. Love the soccer cleats over there, those are going to be very helpful, just giving me slightly extra damage. Gonna play around the mirror shield here. Don't really care about taking damage because, well, mirror shield. I can't really take damage from just one projectile. Soccer cleats definitely useful for the Balestra. Not so much for the basic, unfortunately, because for whatever reason it doesn't count as mobility. But I wish it did, honestly. I wish it did. Okay, the shield is gone. Damn, stop playing. Come here, boys. Should be back up any second. But we don't care about that, just need to bait them. One ranged ability gets the job done. Yeah, you might consider this cheating. We are not using an integral ability to this build, but what are abilities for in this build? You can buy abilities to support your build. Not every build needs to be pinpoint, accurate, and perfect all the time. And this is certainly not one of those builds. It's true melee. I certainly recommend you have at least one ranged ability or a candy like I do. I have 2 candies that are ranged to bait enemies in. And you should be good to go. You should never really experience any struggle. I wish I had picked up the marble. Would have come in handy so many times by now. How have I explored this large area and the 71% of the map and haven't found a single shop yet? That's impressive. You know how you sometimes get those maps where you walk left once, like right from the very spawn point, the entry point to the dungeon, and there's all 3 shops. And that's it. That's pretty much your entire floor. That's all of the excitement of the floor. Just poof, gone in a second. Very good items in here, by the way. Chaos Visor is okay. We don't care much about that. We don't have ranged abilities exactly, but we find Venom Stone. Now, I don't exactly like hindering myself by rooting enemies that I would otherwise push into bits, but at this point, 3-2, we are pretty much done with the run. This is just a nice extra damage boost. Sundial is insanely good with this build. I love it. It's such fun. When you get this to proc on your signature, it's fantastic. When you get this to proc on your standard, it's fantastic. Even when it procs on a dash, it's okay, but your dash has such a low cooldown that it's usually not even affected by this at all. So this usually procs either your standard or your signature. In either case, mwah, love to see it. It's way too late into the run. I don't care much about this at this point. I have a lot of very strong items already. Very, very good against bosses. I will be losing the Snowflake soon here. Unfortunately, I love this item so much. I am definitely going to exchange it for Kasim's Airy Cloak, as that's just such a ridiculously good defensive item. There's no way around that. I have to get that. Also, Soccer Cleats. I might get that too. Probably lose another item here. I just don't know which. I really want the Kasim's. Allows me to play just so much more aggressively and carefree. Hello? Where's the second one? Oh my god, that was instantaneous. Holy, that jump scared the fuck out of me. Okay. More crit chance. Don't care about any of these. None of these are gonna do the trick. Even though Mercenaries dying out is very, very fun. Why so? Because this is a basic Arcana build for the most part. You can use this to ditch out most of your damage, and then use the Mercenaries dagger, which is also a sword of some kind, in order to increase the damage of your Balestra, which is fantastic. I don't like this a lot. I barely ever pick this. I think this would work very well with the build, though. I don't have a lot of money generation, though, so that's the only reason I'm going to say no to this. If I had some sort of money generation, I would absolutely pick that any day of the week. I think this would work wonders for this build. But we're not doing that. And without limiting myself to using abilities that barely deal any damage, thanks to the Mercenaries dagger, I'm gonna have a lot more freedom of how to approach this boss fight. I'm gonna be able to use my abilities to destroy projectiles, like so. And then proc the Mirror Shield anyway, because it has such a massive hitbox. I'm just toying around with these enemies. Honestly, what I should be doing is just use my basic instead of my signature. But I am a signature person. I love doing that. It's fun. It's such fun. My basic is just so freaking strong at this point. Bye-bye. We don't... Oh my god, Limos leave as well. I'm about to have a heart attack. Some of these strongest defensive items in the game. Guess chainmail is going into the dumpster, and so is the snowflake. I like cleats. I mean, they're neat. Leaf is great. Love to see it. I don't think Leaf is as good here as the Airy Cloak, because Airy Cloak is just a little more versatile. I don't need to be dashing. I'm not dashing a shit ton here. Dude, this is kind of nutty. Cleats is really, really nice, but is it the pick here? I definitely want to keep the travel jacket. 14% at this point is a lot. Mirror Shield is also very nice. Still very, very helpful. Easel, of course, is a must keep. Cleats is the only one that I'd say I don't exactly need. I do like these two because they're stacked up already. These are 2 items each, so they contribute a lot to the travel jacket. And other than that, we don't really have anything we can get rid of. This is a very tough decision. Leaf generally is a lot stronger. I have a Mirror Shield though, so maybe Kasim's is a much better pick. I believe so. Of course, Leaf is stronger into Sura too, but I'm going for the Kasim's. Thank you for the free Leaf. I will really miss these items. What a run. What an absolute W of a run. Just so fun. I love it. It might end right here, right now. But even if that's gonna be the case, I will have had a great time. If we die here tonight, just know that it's all worth it. Oh, wrong direction. Of course we're not dying. We are fucking him up. Okay, chakrams. That's actually somewhat usable. Reasonable Arcana. It's like turning us into a Beyblade, at least a little bit. It's just a bunch of chakrams flying around us at any given time, which is great for a melee build. Love to see it. Gonna keep the Typhoon on that slot, as this is also an evasion tool. Covers a great distance, so it's quite versatile in how we use it. Yo, I deflected a projectile there. With a Mirror Shield, I guess? Interesting. Very interesting. Oh, I still keep thinking that we have a special snowflake, and I keep playing like that. I grew up enemies, I don't kill them, I wait to kill them so I can hit all enemies and freeze them, but it's just a mistake. I wish we did have one, to be fair. Okay. Now the ID, you might call me crazy for keeping a Mirror Shield and a Kasim's, which are clearly inferior to a Limo Sleeve. But the idea here is, I just want to be able to take damage once, just a quick burst. Take the first projectile, so to speak, absorb it with the Mirror Shield, take the second with the Airy Cloak, and then no further damage. So this essentially extends the time that I can use an ability without being cancelled. That's what I want to do. Now, Lemo's Leap, I have to actively keep dashing in order to evade attacks. So this isn't super helpful when being incredibly aggressive. I want to be incredibly aggressive. I am planning ahead here, trying to kill Sura in that one final burst. I am theory crafting that one final burst that's gonna kill him. Also, I see Shiva's water bottle. I'm gonna come. That's just how it is. What can I say? Holy fuck. Let me come all over the place. I need that water ball. That is so good. So good in this build. Oh, no, I did say that I was gonna try and burst him down. I have so much defense, I can easily play hyper-aggressively. But the water bottle kind of changes that plan around a little bit. Now, I don't really want to get rid of soccer cleats. All damage I want to keep. I will get rid of the mirror shield, as the Kasim's works very well even without it, and it works very well with the easel as well. And Mirror Shield, as is just not a very strong Arcana. Why not? Because it has a massive girth. It gets hit all the time. You can control it well. It only absorbs one projectile, doesn't make you evade any other projectiles afterwards, for example, like the Kasim's Aerial Cloud would, or the Siege Intelligence would. So it's just, naturally, for 175 gold, way overpriced. Not very strong at all. But the 12% damage increase... Holy shit, this is not Shiva's water bottle anymore. This is Shiva's lotion, because I am gonna come inside of you, Sura. I'm gonna fuck you. I'm gonna fuck you up real good today, my friend. Bit of an issue is that we have to move during our basic. So when being this hyper-aggressive, we might slip up occasionally. Think we'll be fine though. Okay, try and keep hitting him with the chakram so we don't deplete our signature charge. And with the stones as well. Pop the cooldown reduction. I just want to stay really close to the guy. And boom. There we go. Cool. Very clean, very nice and easy. Still the default damage distribution. Naturally, hitting a lot of signatures is just a lot easier than hitting a lot of basics. Why so? Because I don't have to charge it. I just cast it immediately and it goes off all the way. And then I can keep stacking it back up all the way. It's just such fun. The versatility in terms of how to approach this. I consider there to be, say, 3 essential playstyles in this game. One is crit. Just everything revolving around critical hit chance and damage. The second would be signature charge or maybe cooldown reduction, which I would consider rather synonymous. So everything around building up sort of combinations and then casting away a bunch of signatures. And the third, I'd say, is a very defensive playstyle. So I don't think many people play that. It's just takes forever usually when you have a very defensive build, because you still don't have like thorns where enemies, when they attack you, take damage back equal to the attack damage or something like that. So defensive always means purely defensive. No type of thorns effect. No dealing back damage. Stones deal very little damage as well. You can't enhance these damages very well. So defensive playstyle, I'd say, is like the least important, but it still exists. And out of all those playstyles, my absolute favorite is, and will forever remain, crit chance combo with cooldown reduction. It's just... No, sorry. I said crit chance. That's exactly the wrong one. What's wrong with me? Of course, signature charge with cooldown reduction. I believe you can do all of those playstyles. You can definitely cover everything that is in this game playing this build, and you can vary it to your liking and adjust it to your liking, and I believe that's just amazing. I love these swords, man. These swords are such fun. I miss the glove already. Look at this. Look at how fast it is. And then combine this with candies. Oh, it just feels so good. It sounds so clean. It looks so good. It feels great. You freeze enemies, you deal high damage. Great coverage. Then you shoot a projectile from the middle of the swords occasionally as well. I love this so much. Thank you so much, Glove of Patience. Definitely would have regret picking up the the Cestus, is it called? Celestus? Cestus? The Cestus, I believe it's called. Why so? Because it lowers the damage of everything else, which would make your late game, potentially anyway, a lot more difficult. But if you're into that, if you much prefer using your basic over everything else, the Cestus is a great pickup. But we're not doing that. We like to be versatile. We love to just enjoy fun and quick combos and, you know, you've seen it. You probably watched the video, right? So, thank you very much for witnessing this. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you could enjoy this nearly as much as I did. And maybe try it out. Give it a go. This build is very, very fun. Incredibly fun. I would go so far as to say maybe this is actually one of my favorite builds to play in this game. I would probably exchange the Calming Flow, as I'm not a huge fan of these Arcana, that's why I rarely ever use them, for something a bit more damage heavy, like a Permafrost Bulwark, and then I'd have a fantastic build on my hands. And if I could actually start out with the Glove of Patience as my starting relic, I would do that any day. Any day of the week, I would do that. That would be one of my favorite builds of all time. But judging from this one run, I don't think I can exactly define this as one of my favorites right away. I'd have to do a lot more testing and a lot more fiddling around. I don't think ultimately this is one of my favorites because it would require Glove of Patience to just become, you know, serotonin. Is it serotonin? No. What's he called? What's he called again? That rewarding feeling that you inject straight up into your veins. I don't know. I forget. Crack cocaine. I'll just call it crack cocaine again because that's more memorable, quite frankly. It would become crack cocaine as soon as you find a Glove of Patience. However, that just doesn't happen every run. It happens in the least of runs, I would even argue, unless you're playing Boss Rush. So, yeah, even there, this is definitely not gonna become one of my favorites, I don't think. I would love seeing this as a starting relic, even with the cursed effect. I don't mind at all. I think this is very fun, and I think that my Calming Flow perfectly works around the downside as well, even though, again, I don't care much about that. I just want to use my basic and feel good about it. Thank you for watching yet again. And as per usual, until next time, I wish you a good morning, a good day, or a good night, wherever you are. And bye-bye.